Introduction to Frontline Storm from Slam Dunk Master. From a basketball trainer 30 years later, unexpectedly merging with Sakuragi Kadojo, what kind of basketball storm will he bring? Chapter 1. The real competition has only begun now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Su Yang slowly opened his eyes, bright lights, and the sound of mountains and tsunamis in his ears. Where is this? Didn't I watch Slam Dunk in the cinema? It must be that the film is too boring, causing me to have hallucinations. Back then, when I was in 3rd grade, I and Fa Xiao fell in love with basketball because they watched Slam Dunk Master. They practiced together and joined the middle and high school teams. Later on, my friend's basketball skills improved like a cheat and eventually reached the pinnacle of the world, and in order to follow in the footsteps of his close allies, he resolutely chose to become a basketball trainer and fought together in the NBA, Olympics, and World Championships. To this day, the new Feiyang training camp has become one of the world's leading training camps. Today is the day of the premiere of Slam Dunk Master in Japan. Su Yang couldn't resist the temptation and entrusted a girlfriend of Xiao Ri to buy tickets, intending to reminisce about his youth and relive it. Unfortunately, the heartwarming movie was turned into Miyagi Rain by Inoue. How to put it, the pace of this story is very similar to that of the Chinese men's football team, sluggish and sluggish. A game was cut up in disarray, especially the once goddess Haruko Akagi, who painted too ugly. Su Yang ultimately couldn't bear it and fell asleep with his childhood girlfriend. Stop watching, with this time, it's better to go out and reminisce about youth with your little girlfriend. Ouch. Why does your head hurt so much? Just as Su Yang was about to get up, a burst of pain awakened. Su Yang instinctively touched it, and upon seeing it, his hands were all red. Blood. Just as Su Yang was puzzled, a voice came into his ear. Sakura Blossom Path, how are you? Cherry Blossom Path. Why is this name so familiar? Su Yang lifted his eyelids and saw a plump young woman in front of him. Kaizi. I really have hallucinations. How could I see the lottery in reality? Su Yang shook his head, wanting to wake up a bit, but with a movement of his head, he felt even more pain. Hiss. At this moment, Su Yang seemed to hear the sound of opening the door again, and the shouting in his ear became clearer, as if it had drifted in through the crack of the door. Sakura would. It's Sakuragi again. This illusion is a bit big. But this voice is quite cute. With the clattering footsteps, Su Yang felt a beautiful shadow approaching him. The first thing that comes into view is a pair of smooth and slender calves, followed by a blue pleated skirt. Wearing an ordinary school uniform on this person looks neat and youthful, and the black pupils reflect a gentle yet caring gaze. Akagi Haruko. Su Yang pinched his thigh. Pain. Lying in bed, not awake, isn't this an illusion? Su Yang struggled to get up. Cherry Blossom Road, don't mess around. You're definitely not going to play like this. Cherry Blossom Path. Are you talking about me? Is it difficult for me to be in the Cherry Blossom Path now? If I were Sakuragi Flower Path, where am I now? By the way, Kaizi said to go on stage, so now it should be in the game, right? Did you get injured during the game? Before the big movie was released, Su Yang deliberately picked up the manga and watched it again. Throughout the entire anime, Sakuragi Kadojo was injured twice on the field, once against Ling Nan, and once against Shan Wang in the final game. The incident with the Mountain King, where Sakuragi was injured, was clearly a headache this time. It seems that this should be the final battle between Xianbei and Ling Nan. Regardless of whether this is Zhuang Zumengdi or not, since we have arrived here, let's win the game first. I don't like to lose. Besides, for so many years, Su Yang has been accompanying his close friend Zhang Xian as a trainer. As Zhang Xian gradually reached the pinnacle of his career in basketball, Su Yang has also become a leader in the field of trainers. However, as a former basketball player, who wouldn't aspire to gallop on the field? Basketball, in the final analysis, is still a game of physical fitness. Just like Su Yang used to do, he can only watch Zhang Xian, a pervert of different sizes, secretly drool on the training ground. There is no way, his physical fitness cannot keep up, and everything else is useless. Now, there is a chance to have a spectacular fight. What are you hesitating about? Just do it and it's over. As for what else you have or don't have, do it before you decide. Thinking of this, Su Yang seemed to feel less pain on his body. Su Yang stood up with a ho, which caused Kaizi and Qingzi to exclaim in surprise. Sakuragi Flower Path, don't mess around. Oh, this is Kaizi calling out to herself. Su Yang hasn't adapted to his new identity yet, so he went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. By the way, his head should still be bleeding. Kaizi, could you help me bandage my wound? I still have to play later. Fortunately, I have learned Japanese before, although it is for easier communication. After all, sometimes I still need to master an extra foreign language. You're crazy, how can you play like this? Kaizi is still trying to stop it. Don't worry, this little injury is not a big problem as long as it's properly bandaged. I have my own body, Su Yang said in a low voice, but with an undeniable force. Just kidding, compared to Kaizi, a team manager who relies solely on enthusiasm, Su Yang, a professional trainer, clearly has more confidence in such matters. To be honest, the physical fitness of Sakuragi Kagami is really impressive. Su Yang can clearly feel the power that spurts out, and his physical fitness is no worse than when Zhang Xian participated in the draft. Oh, this kid seems to have changed his personality. He doesn't even talk about being a genius in words. Kaizi also seems a bit uncomfortable. I have to say, Kaizi, you have the truth. At this moment, Haruko was moving herself. Sakuragi Jun must have played with injuries for his brother's dream. Sakuragi is really amazing, you are already a qualified basketball player. However, Sakuragi, it seems that you don't need to appear for the time being, Kaizi said after glancing at the situation on the field. At this moment, as if to verify the lottery, the referee blew the whistle for the end of the midfield. Su Yang, named Sakuragi from the next chapter, glanced at the score, which was 26.32, still 6 points behind. 6 points. It doesn't seem like there are many either. Since you're here, let's start from here. The real competition is only starting now. Chapter 2. Different Sakura Blossom Paths. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, in the changing room of Xiangbei, the gorilla is preparing for the second half. Sakuragi, you have fouled 3 times already. Pay attention in the second half. Have you fouled 3 times? Sakuragi is really a foul king. In the second half, he had to take it easy. It seemed like there was only one chance to make a mistake, and I don't know what kind of scale Tian High School is now. Maybe he's like a girl, just a touch and he'll fall. Let's have a big counterattack in the second half, Sakuragi. Sakuragi turned around and saw that it was Yasuda. In his past life, he even read a Dunk Dunk fan novel written from Yasuda's perspective. What was the author's name? Panda Shoots. This national treasure is quite lively. Just as Sakuragi was still daydreaming, a loud roar came. Everyone prepare, go. Coincidentally, just as Akagi was walking towards the field with Xiangbei, before leaving the corridor, he heard a wild beast-like roar from the field. Roar. It's Yuzhu, and Xiangbei and Lingnan are quite familiar, so I naturally recognized whose voice it was. Everyone, take a look at Akagi. It has to be said that the two of them really look like this. I didn't think before, but now the sound is so unpleasant to listen to, Sakuragi keeps complaining. Don't lose, Flower Path. Sakuragi looked at the stands. Oh, it's the Sakuragi Legion, Yohei Mizuwa, and so on, PDD Takami, Kazuko Nakajima Tadeakairo, and Yoshihiro Kanano, next to Akagi Haruko and her two best friends, Fuji Matsui. Why don't we have a name? Sakuragi glanced at the field and saw that the lineup on Lingnan's side was 4th Fish Pillar, 5th Pond, 7th Xiandao, 8th Grass Planting, and 13th Fujian. They all looked similar to those in the manga and had unique characteristics, especially Afu. This is the culprit who caused the downfall of Sakuragi. Let me see how much strength you have. Seemingly sensing Sakuragi's gaze, Afu's small eyes narrowed even smaller and said, "This time, I'm sure I'll win." It's quite stinky. But the first goal seems to have nothing to do with Sakuragi. Because as soon as he came up, Luchuan Maple and Xiandao were in opposition. Coincidentally, let's take a closer look at the level of top 5 or even top 3 scoring players in dunks. Lu Chuanfeng suddenly started, dribbled the ball from the crotch and hit it with a mid-range shot. It is indeed very smooth, and it can be seen that Lu Chuanfeng has become very proficient in this move, and behind each move, there is a lot of training. Lu Chuanfeng must have put in a lot of effort behind the scenes. Xiangbei did not initially let Sakuragi confront Fukuda, but instead let Sakuragi defend Ikeyama. The clever coach Tanioka decisively chose to open a breakthrough from Sakuragi's side. Intelligence is outdated. Pop. Sakuragi cut off the ball on the pool and quickly ran forward to the field. The Lingnan players fell into a moment of stagnation, especially on the pool, with a bewildered expression like a hammer. The first thing that came to mind was Xiandao, who chased back and shouted loudly. "Defend back." The people in Lingnan woke up instantly and immediately put in effort to chase them back. After a few steps of dribbling, Sakuragi felt that he had adapted to his body and immediately put in full force. At this moment, Sendo, who was the first to defend, took advantage of Sakuragi's speed and had already arrived at Sakuragi's right side. Seeing the basketball close by, Sendo reached out to the scout. Sakuragi, who had already noticed someone approaching, couldn't let Sendo win. He handed the ball to his left hand and continued to shoot towards the basket. Pop. Do. Sendo, who was deeply afraid of Sakuragi's explosive power, did not give Sakuragi a chance to hit the basket and made a decisive foul. Sakuragi gambled and threw the ball into the basket, but unfortunately did not score. Although this body is good, it still needs some practice to fully master it. The referee handed the ball to Sakuragi's hand, and Sakuragi made 2 extra taps before throwing the ball in a more standard position. Bang dang. The first penalty is confiscation. Alas, I've used too much effort, and I've also developed a habit of training on NBA courts. It's a bit unfamiliar to use this field anymore. Not to mention Sakuragi, he is still regretful. Seeing Sakuragi's free throw posture, people who are familiar with Sakuragi both on and off the field were shocked. You know, Sakuragi used to only know how to pour the toilet. Everyone is not blind and can see that Sakuragi's free throw position is already very standard. Coincidentally, it must be coincidental. The wild monkey on the stands was the first to disbelief. Aunt Tian Zhao seemed to be fighting against the wild monkey. Before the wild monkey could finish speaking, Sakuragi's second punishment was imposed. The scene in Hainan was once very awkward, and the face and butt of the wild monkey were no different. This time, it was really a wild monkey. Coach Tian Gang off the field felt a hint of unease in his heart. When did this layman learn this? Does Coach Anshi really have the power to turn decay into magic? Is it a coincidence? Well, it must be a coincidence. Not to mention the opponent, even team members don't believe it. Sakuragi naturally heard these sounds, but he definitely wouldn't flaunt or argue like before. The most important thing is to quickly adapt to this body. The game is not over yet. 29.32, with the consecutive scores of Sakuragi and Maple Flow, the difference in scores on zhaozuiyuan.com is only 3 points. In the next round, Lingnan gave up attacking from Sakuragi's side and continued to attack from Fukuda. This time, Sakuragi didn't run around the court like before, but instead stood near the free throw line. The high school half was not as wide as the NBA's. This distance can be used to defend the inside when the Monkey King was attacking the gorilla alone, or to sweep the middle distance when the outside line was breached. As for being placed on the outside pool, if you have the ability, you can vote. Leaving aside the reliability of Ikeda's three-pointers, Sakuragi believes he can quickly interfere with Ikeda's slow shooting speed. Defense is not about blocking shots, just make the opponent's attack uncomfortable. Compared to letting Qishang gamble his chances, Lingnan is more willing to let Futian challenge Mitsui. Qishang faced Mitsui's defense and took a shot, feeling that the ball couldn't enter. After landing, he immediately prepared to rush for the rebound. Nowadays, Sakuragi won't be distracted anymore. Compared to grabbing rebounds, Fukuda is far behind. In the situation where the gorilla and monkey boss are in love and fighting on the other side, Sakuragi overwhelms Fukuda and accepts this defensive rebound. At this point, Miyagi had already started running towards the front court. After Sakuragi landed, he immediately took off twice and threw the ball towards the front court with both hands. If it's just a burst of energy, Sakusa is not a match for Miyagi. It can even be said that apart from height, Sakusa is no stronger than Miyagi in any aspect. The final result could only be that Miyagi once again scored 2 points for Xiangbei, while Planting Grass could only look at Miyagi's taillights from behind. On the basketball court, talent is really more important than hard work. Off the field, Tian Gang can only look at Miyagi and feel resentful. Why isn't such an excellent defender from Lingnan? The score at this time is .31.32. It's only 1 point away. Chapter 3. First buckle the fish pillar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. At this moment when it was necessary to score, Lingnan immediately handed the ball to their most trusted person. Xiandao. Sendo also lived up to expectations, falsely pitching a true pass, deceiving Ryukawa Maple and Akaji, and flipping the ball back to Yuzuru. Yuzuru received the ball, turned around, and hit the board facing an empty basket. This pass is amazing. Sakuragi knows too well how difficult it is to pass the ball to the inside. Back in the day, he had a powerful tool like Dayo in the Mosaic, but he fell in the first round every year. Why? Even if you have a big weapon, you still need to pass the ball in. What were the defenders of Mosaic in those years? Except for Boss Fu, he is really a scumbag who doesn't want to pass, either doesn't know how to pass, or neither does he want to pass. It's better not to have this defensive line. The ball passed to this position, just right. The inside players don't need to make any extra moves to directly attack the basket. Although Sakuragi is on the other side, he dare not rush up. If this kind of ball is not fouled, it cannot be defended at all. Of course, if there are enough fouls, Sakuragi doesn't mind giving the monkey boss a shot. With the monkey boss's free throw, 1 out of 2 is considered an exceptional performance. Before Lingnan could breathe a sigh of relief, he was hit by a 3-point shot from Luchuan Feng facing Sendo. At 34.34, both sides finally drew. Hurry up. Sakuragi has never seen a faster move, Curry, Ray Allen, and of course, his close friends who grew up together. However, in his freshman year, such a quick and accurate move is still very rare. After the draw, the offensive and defensive rhythms of both sides slowed down, with mistakes, strikes, and violations becoming the main theme on the field. The audience was tormented and drowsy. If it were in the Chinese Super League, someone might have called Geneva. At this time, Lingnan still chose to believe in their immortal path. Sendo's continuous feints tricked Lu Chuanfeng's center of gravity, causing him to suddenly accelerate and overtake Lu Chuanfeng's center of gravity to the right, taking big strides into the inner line. Akaji, who was on the inside, immediately defended, and Sendo jumped up in front of Akaji, forcing Akaji to jump up and block Sendo. Sendo performed his most skilled idle pull-up layup in front of Akaji, who was 1.98 meters tall, and watched him fall first in the air. Then, he changed his right hand to his left hand in the air and threw the ball towards the basket. This ball is here. When Lingnan's substitute sees Sendo's ball, they immediately think of the final moments of the practice match against Xiangbei, where Sendo used this method to defeat Xiangbei. Miracle reappears. Just as everyone in Lingnan was about to raise their hands and cheer, a figure moved rapidly from the opposite side, rushing forward and leaping into the air. Its right hand was raised high, and it terrifyingly pressed towards the immortal path. Xiandao suddenly felt the light dim, and a burst of wind echoed in his ear, leaving his left hand empty as he lifted the ball. Pop! The basketball slammed heavily onto the floor and immediately exploded, landing off the court. A pair of big hands held the ball firmly, and the person turned around. The fiery red hair was particularly glaring. With me around, don't think it's so easy to score. The players on the field, whether they are from Xiangbei or Lingnan, have not reacted. Is this person Sakuragi Kagami? This guy actually stopped the immortal path. When did he run over? At this moment, the supporters of Lingnan, who were about to shout out their cheers, were suppressed by Xingsheng, like a duck being choked on its neck, holding its breath in its chest. The feeling was even more uncomfortable. On the other hand, in the northern part of Hunan, the opposite is true. After a moment of confusion, everyone immediately realized that the cherry blossom path had once again made a contribution. The cheerleading team led by the Sakuragi Legion cheered loudly. Go on. Flower path. Red-haired monk, the four corners are wide. Of course, some people don't think so, such as a wild monkey in the stand saying, what the hell is that? It's just a coincidence. Qing Tian, you're wrong, Ah Mu spoke up and glanced at Sakuragi, who was being alternately greeted by Xiangbei players on the field. He continued, think carefully about Sakuragi's performance in the last few rounds of the second half. Xiangbei was able to catch up, and Chapter 4. Deducting the Immortal Way Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, from a visual perspective, it is undoubtedly the dunk that is more heart-wrenching. But judging from the entire game, undoubtedly the whistle for a foul has a greater killing power. Because the inner pillar of Lingnan, Captain Yuzhu, has committed 4 offenses. Sakuragi, who had gradually adapted, steadily hit free throws in a daze throughout the game. At 37.34, Xiangbei began to take the lead, and at the same time, he officially sounded the horn for Xiangbei's counterattack. No matter how unwilling Fish Pillar is or how frustrated Coach Tanioka is, it cannot change this fact. Lingnan can only replace the substitute center. 11 th Suga Ping. Suga Ping's level is obviously not on par with Fish Pillar. Although Monkey Boss's attack is sharp and he can make 3 free throws, his defensive power under the basket is really not strong. With him guarding under the basket, everyone in Xiangbei will definitely be wary. Now that he's off the field, the pressure on Xiangbei's inner line has suddenly decreased. At this point, a qualified point guard will definitely focus their attack on the inner line, and Xiangbei precisely has such a qualified point guard. Miyagi Yoshida. If you let Miyagi challenge Shinjin, it will definitely be difficult for Miyagi. As for planting grass, that's another story. The ball was handed over to Akaji, and I don't know what Coach Tanioka was thinking, so he arranged for Sujihiro to defend Akaji alone. Isn't this difficult for student Suga Ping? Akaji received the ball and tentatively made a few moves. After trying to figure out the depth of Sujihiro, he stopped talking nonsense and suddenly turned around. He pushed Sujihiro open and it was a gorilla dunk. Akaji's attack on Sujihiro did not require any sophisticated skills, it was entirely due to his physical fitness. Suga Ping didn't seem to realize the strength gap between the two and thought of finding a place in the next round, but of course, he was beaten by a gorilla. Sakuragi picked up the basketball and saw Miyagi running forward, forcefully passing the ball towards the front court. Striving for speed, Miyagi will never fear any opponents. Not to mention facing the grass-planting crowd, even if it is Amato Shin, Miyagi dares to act recklessly. As the distance from Miyagi grew larger and larger, a sense of powerlessness surged into the heart of the plant. Too fast, I really can't catch up. Facing the empty basket, Miyagi felt a sense of joy in his heart. It's time for me to perform. Just as Miyagi was pondering which handsome posture to use to attract the attention of Choi, he suddenly heard a heavy breathing sound quickly approaching him, and couldn't help but be surprised, accelerating the rhythm of the layup. It's Xiandao. I saw the immortal path take a step on the ground, jump up, and unexpectedly catch up in the air at high speed after jumping up in Miyagi Ryota. So fast. There was a burst of exclamation from the Xianbei substitute bench. Miyagi felt the immense pressure coming from behind, but he was already in the air and couldn't dodge at all. If this situation continues to develop, uncertainty will be a big hat. Just as Miyagi was preparing to grit his teeth for a layup, a familiar voice came from behind. Throw it onto the rebound. Cherry Blossom Path. Miyagi heard Sakuragi's voice, and although he was puzzled, there was no better choice at this moment. He quickly threw the ball towards the rebound, which also bankrupted Sendo's plan to block it. Xiandao, who had already begun to fall in the air, felt a shadow floating behind him, and a sense of ominous anticipation surged in his heart. Sakuragi glanced at the rebounding basketball, adjusted his pace, jumped high, caught the basketball that was about to fall, swung it with both hands, and slammed it heavily into the basket. Pang! The basket let out a heavy moan. The huge impact force caused Sendo, who was already unstable in shape, to be knocked out of the baseline and fall to the ground, causing the Lingnan players and substitute players to exclaim in surprise. Miyagi Yoshida, the ground wire, was afraid for a moment. Fortunately, he dodged quickly, otherwise he would have been accidentally injured by this bastard. Sakuragi, this guy, is really a beast. Exciting. The shepherd watching from the stands couldn't help but marvel, thinking of the game where he was blocked by Sakuragi, and couldn't help but feel heartbroken for a second. I also understand this feeling. Well done. Akaji patted Sakuragi lightly and said with rare encouragement. Sakuragi had calmed down at this moment, nodded and stood in his position, bowing ready to welcome Lingnan's attack. Sakuragi, this guy has really changed. Moo off the field saw it vividly. If Sakuragi had already started boasting and speaking, how could he have calmly entered defense like now? It seems that the ball before had a significant impact on him. Kaizi also agreed. After speaking, the two of them exchanged a glance and saw the joy in each other's eyes. We still have a chance in this year's national competition. At this moment, Coach Tian Gang from Lingnan had to call a pause. The current score is 39.34, and Sakuragi Kadojo, relying on his own strength, has just hit a small climax of 5.0 points. If he doesn't call a pause, Lingnan will be defeated by Sakuragi alone. If we were to lose to Sakuragi, who is widely recognized as an outsider, it would be much more unbearable than giving a millennium kill to Tanioka. Sendo, are you okay? Tian Gang first asked his beloved disciple, and then he had to rely on Sendo to control the team. If Sendo was also knocked out of this game, he would explain it. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but based on Tian Gang's understanding of Xiandao, it shouldn't be so easy for Xiandao to give up. I'm fine. The immortal waved his hand, indicating that he was fine, but his eyes became sharper. Those familiar with the Immortal path know that this is when the Immortal path is about to unleash all its firepower. Coach, let me play. The fish pillar off the field couldn't sit still and walked up to Coach Tian, strongly demanding to play. No way, it's still early before the game ends. You've already fouled 4 times, and now that you're on the field, I'll reimburse you in advance. Please calm down. Fish pillar, only when you really learn to control your emotions can you truly challenge Akagi. Coach, I got it. Fish pillar listened to Coach Tiangong's words and could only reluctantly sit back on the bench. I admit, it was me who underestimated Sakuragi. Although he is an outsider, once he erupts, it can really be a headache. Coach Tanioka first reflected on himself. It has to be said that aside from tactical level, Tian is really a good coach. In such competitions, Coach Tian first puts the responsibility on himself. Unlike some leaders nowadays, the first thing they do when encountering problems is to throw the blame. Next, Suga Ping, I want you to do your best to contain Akagi on the offensive end. You don't need to score in front of him, as long as you can restrain his energy. Can you do it? Yes, coach. Ikeda, you go help Fukuda block Mitsui and let Fukuda go find Sakuragi to attack. This is the only defensive weakness in the Xianbei lineup, try to score more on Sakuragi. Fukuda, when defending, go help Suga Ping. As for Sakuragi, as long as he doesn't get to the basket, he can be released temporarily. Do you understand? Understood, coach. Okay, go ahead and try to catch up on the lagging scores. Chapter 5. Miscalculation by Tian. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the pause ended, and Lingnan indeed handed the ball to Fukuda. At the same time, Qishang took the lead in blocking Mitsui. 1-on-1. Sakuragi saw through the layout of Lingnan at a glance and waved his hand to refuse Mitsui, who was about to come up for a change of defense. Do you think I'm a defensive loophole? Brother is not wuxia hua anymore. Can Cherrywood withstand it? All those who support Xianbei are secretly worried. How strong Fukuda's attacking ability is, everyone has a clear idea in these 2 games. Look at Mitsui, who was responsible for guarding Fukuda before, now shows signs of fatigue. Moreover, Mitsui has committed 3 fouls against Fukuda. At this moment, Sakuragi stared fixedly at Fukuda's shoulders, maintaining a distance of 1.5 meters from him. He spread his feet, lowered his center of gravity, opened his shoulders, and rhythmically danced his hands in front of Fukuda. If you have the ability, please invest here and join me. At first glance at Sakuragi's defensive posture, even Akagi, who has always been strictly required, wants to praise Sakuragi. This defensive posture is really standard. Looking at Sakuragi's defensive stance, this kid is really enlightened. At this point, Fukuda was very uncomfortable, and Sakuragi's defensive position was clearly to let go of the bottom line and focus on defending the middle. I'm not sure about this distance projection. If I break through forcefully, it's likely to be matched by Sakuragi and Akagi inside, making it even more difficult to hit. This Ping is really useless. He can't help at all in the inside. Fukuda, don't be scared by Sakuragi, he's just a flower rack, Tian loudly reminded in the audience. Yeah, this guy's defense was full of loopholes before, and he couldn't have improved all of a sudden. He almost got scared by this kid. I want to see if you have learned well in the cherry blossom path. Fukuda suddenly accelerated diagonally, but after taking 1 step, the next move was difficult to continue. It turned out that Sakuragi used the advantage of distance to stick it on at the moment when Fukuda broke through. The physical strength of the competition was just physical fitness, and compared to this, Fukuda had no advantage. Seeing it difficult to move forward, Fukuda lifted the ball and prepared to take a jump shot. In this situation, if the previous Sakuragi ball had jumped up, but now, Sakuragi not only did not jump blindly, but also continued to stick and increase the physical confrontation with Fukuda, while raising his hand high and not giving the referee a chance to whistle. Defensive, just disrupt the opponent's attacking rhythm is enough. In a situation where the attacking rhythm is disrupted, let alone photon, it's just those NBA superstars in their past lives, where can their shooting percentage be so high? White number 13, walking violation. Fukuda clearly had not adapted to this intensity of physical confrontation yet. Under the intense confrontation, not only did he not find his phone, but he was also pushed by Sakuragi and moved under his feet. Not only on the field, but also off the field, Aamu, Fujimoto, and others who had fought against Sakuragi looked surprised. In everyone's impression, Sakuragi's defense is basically based on his excellent physical fitness and ability to defend. If it weren't for Akagi in the inner line, Xianbei's inner line could have been beaten into a sieve. And this time, Sakuragi did indeed defend Fukuda with his own defensive skills. Coincidence, it must be coincidence. The wild monkey couldn't resist. You should know that in the last game, Fukuda almost broke the Hainan front line with his own strength, and none of Muto, Ashen, or his Tian have suffered losses in Fukuda's hands. Otherwise, it's hard to say who killed the monkey boss if his mind is not calm. On the northern side of Hunan, the ball was still handed over to Akagi. Fukuda followed Tiangong's instructions and released Sakuragi to wrap Akagi. Sakuragi cut into the interior and received Akagi's pass to score from the basket. This kind of under-the-basket rebounding still doesn't make it, Sakuragi can consider retiring in place. One attack and one defense, like two slaps in the face, one left and one right, hit Tian Gang's face. Coach Tian Gang's face visibly turned black. On the field, Fukuda and Sakuragi once again faced each other. After a round of defense, combined with discussions with his close allies during his previous life reading comics, Sakuragi also gained a preliminary understanding of Fukuda's offensive ability. Almost not able to make a three-point shot, it seems that the mid-range shooting rate is limited, and the back-body ability is basically non-existent. I like to use face-to-face attacks, but I tend to run without the ball, which is quite sneaky. My scoring seems to be mostly concentrated under the basket. Fukuda made a fake shot, but Sakuragi still maintained a posture of shooting whenever he had the ability. Fukuda couldn't help but curse again in his heart. Just when everyone thought Fukuda was going to continue playing singles with the ball, he passed it to Sendo. Fukuda is afraid. Of course not, Fukuda quickly cut inside after passing the ball and forcefully charged into the inside line. Transmission and cutting. This Futian has something to do with playing without a ball, but it's not enough to score. Sakuragi turns around and slides. Although he was one step slower and couldn't stop Fukuda's entry head-on, he could still limit his forward direction. The rest was left to the gorilla. Gorilla, block the middle position. Bastard. The gorilla roared and rushed out. Fukuda was also surprised that Sakuragi could keep up with him. This time, he couldn't completely shake off Sakuragi and looked for Akagi in front of Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. There was no other choice but to face difficulties and rise up. In fact, at this point, Fukuda's better choice is to pass the ball to the inside line Sujihiro. At this point, Akagi has already made a hole for Gorilla, and Sujihiro inside is currently without defense. As long as he can pass in, he can have an opportunity to come out. Does Fukuda have it? I don't have that ability, okay. This is the limitation of Fukuda compared to Sendo. He can only serve as an attacking endpoint, and it would be difficult for him to instigate the attack. This is not as good as the cherry tree in the past, and the cherry tree flower path occasionally has a wonderful legend. Unless the scoring ability reaches the level of AMU, Sendo, or Ryukawa Maple, directly challenging Akagi is a gift. However, Fukuda clearly did not have this kind of ability, so it was not surprising that he was hit by Hot Pot. Sakuragi grabbed the ball and threw it vigorously into the front court. This time, Miyagi stood out and scored a layup, breaking away from the grass. Tian, do you still think Sakuragi's previous defense was a coincidence? I. Upon hearing the voice of his own boss, Tian Nobunaga's heart tightened and he wanted to say a few words, but he didn't know where to start. When Mr. Tian Gang paused just now, he should have arranged for Fukuda to play Sakuragi alone to score points, and let Sakuragi go during defense. Unfortunately, neither of these 2 points were achieved. Fukuda didn't have a good solution against Sakuragi, let alone Akaki's ability to fill gaps in the interior. Now Sakuragi's attacking ability is not without merit. Mr. Tian Gang miscalculated this time. Hainan's head coach accurately analyzed the situation on the field. 43.34, the score is approaching double digits. What will Lingnan do next? The 6th octopus pillar appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, there is a difference of 9 points, whether you say more or less. There is an unwritten consensus on the basketball court that a 10-point difference is a hurdle. Once the difference exceeds double digits, the morale and confidence of players on the court will be greatly affected, making it easy for them to collapse and be swept away by the opponent. At this point, Xiandao began to take over the scoring responsibility of Lingnan. After 3 passes, the ball reached Sendo's hands, and he saw Sendo cross over with his left foot and kick with his right foot, ready to accelerate past Lu Chuanfeng. Lu Chuanfeng was about to move his body when he suddenly collided with a body. Damn it! Lu Chuanfeng realized that he had been blocked by someone, and it was the 5th pawn in Lingnan that was blocking him. The entry point chosen by Xiandao happened to be at the weak point in northern Hunan. Mitsui Sho, more precisely, it was the exposed space when Mitsui and Lu Chuanfeng were connected. As it is now, Qishang stepped forward and blocked Lu Chuan Maple. Mitsui, who was supposed to switch to Sendo, was noticeably slower by half a beat. With this half beat, facing Futian may not be a problem, but switching to Sendo would be different. Sendo seized this gap and made a quick stop jump shot before Mitsui made up his defense. At 43.36, after the end of the game at Fish Pillar, Lingnan finally scored. Sakuragi, who was defending Fukuda on the other side, also had to give Sendo a thumbs up in his heart. This offensive choice was really perfect. As long as the Immortal takes a step forward, he can defend himself well. At this point, just delay the Immortal a little bit, and I believe the gorilla will definitely come over. Either turn the Immortal into a sandwich biscuit, or it will be a hot pot feast. This loophole would not have happened originally. Although Mitsui has 2 years of blank space, his strength is still strong, especially in the defensive end. His defensive ability is not inferior to that of Maple Ryukawa, so it should not have happened. There is only one truth. Mitsui is tired. Using Fukuda to expend Mitsui's stamina, Coach Tanioka's tactical arrangement ultimately achieved the goal. Undoubtedly, he is the leading scorer in the world of slam dunks. Whether it is the timing, the use of skills, or the choice of scoring methods, he has reached a perfect level. Xiandao, who discovered the scoring password, concocted the same method and made consecutive jump shots in front of Mitsui to score. Fortunately, Akagi in northern Hunan is unstoppable on the inner line. Even if the Xiandao firepower is fully activated, it can only ensure that the difference is not widened. Brother Glasses, replace Mitsui. Taking advantage of Mitsui's pass being disrupted by Sendo and out of bounds, Sakuragi decisively spoke up to remind Kimu on the sidelines that Mitsui must not be allowed to leave the field again due to physical exhaustion. Although netizens say that Mitsui with residual blood is the strongest on the surface, no one can guarantee whether Mitsui is a supernatural or supernatural. Upon realizing this, Mumu also noticed Mitsui's condition and cursed himself for being in trouble. He immediately applied for a replacement. After Moo came on the field, although his defensive skills were not as good as Mitsui's, fortunately he had plenty of physical energy. Brother Glasses is also very aware of the importance of this game. He has changed his previous elegant image and is almost using a persistent and relentless way of defense. Ruya, that's off the court. Now, as long as I win, Moo Gongyen. This is my last summer, and I cannot leave with regret. Defending the immortal path was something that Moo dared not even dream of, but if it were just entangled with the pond, it would be much simpler. Except for Qishang, the effect of others covering is much worse, and Sendo has to fall into the rhythm of scoring in singles. Although Xiandao can still score, it is difficult to ensure that he hits every shot. After all, Lu Chuanfeng's defense is not paper-based, and scoring under his defense is not an easy task. Moreover, with Akagi and Sakuragi guarding the interior of northern Hunan, Lingnan's rebounds are not guaranteed at all. As the efficiency of the Xiandao attack decreases, the previously deadlocked score has once again shown a trend of widening. At 53.42, Xiangbei has already pulled the score difference to double digits, and at this time, there are only the last 10 minutes left in the game time. Coach Tanioka finally couldn't help it anymore. Yuzuru, go warm up and get ready to go on stage, Tanioka instructed Yuzuru to one side. Coach. Fish Pillar heard the coach shout his name and stood up with a look of disbelief. I was originally planning to send you on in the last 5 minutes to determine the outcome, but now there's nothing we can do. We're at a disadvantage on the field. If we don't send you on, there might not be a need to play next. Yuzuru, I made you endure it all along, but I'm sorry, until just now, I couldn't bear it anymore. I, Tanioka Mwachi, am not the kind of person who can calm down. Go, Yuzuru, show everyone your strength. Coach, don't worry. I won't let you down. Fish Pillar. It's a Fish Pillar. Seeing Fish Pillar play, the already noisy scene on the field becomes even more noisy. Is Yuju going to play so early? He has fouled 4 times. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The wild monkeys on the stands shouted loudly. There's no other way, I can't let Yuju continue to sit on the bench. If it were me, I would do the same. If I sit any longer, Lingnan might really lose, the coach from Hainan agreed. Although Xiandao is very powerful, the shepherd took over the conversation. No matter how powerful he is only a sophomore in high school. He not only has to attack and score, but also is responsible for defending Luchuan Maple. Sometimes he also needs to enter the inner line to assist in defense. If he continues to play like this, Xiandao's physical strength cannot be sustained. It seems to be to verify Mu Shini's words. As soon as he finished speaking, Miyagi snatched the pass from the air and shot forward alone. Xiandao, block the Palace City. Tian Gang shouted loudly in the audience. Even if the attack and defense are shoulder to shoulder, Xiandao is still the fastest and quickest person to return and defend in Lingnan team. Unfortunately, only Xiandao has returned and defended in Lingnan team, and the rest of the team is still trying their best to catch up. However, in Xiangbei, Miyagi, Luchuan Maple, and Sakuragi fired 3 arrows at the same time. Unlike before, Sakuragi only knew how to bury his head and sprint. Now, Sakuragi's fast attack position is not the same as before, and the project is to complete the steal at the top of the arc, naturally forming the arrow of this fast attack. Sakuragi didn't just accelerate, but started slowing down behind Miyagi after entering the 3-point line. If Miyagi didn't go smoothly, he could immediately launch a second attack. If Miyagi passed, he could also score with the fastest layup or dunk. Miyagi's fake pass deceived Sendo, and he took advantage of Sendo's distraction to accelerate his shot into the interior for a layup. Xiandao was deceived by Miyagi's fake actions and couldn't react quickly, so he could only watch Miyagi score. 55.42, the score has widened again. It seems that replacing the fish pole did not have the expected effect as expected by Tian Gang. What should Lingnan do next? Chapter 7. Cowards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. The appearance of Yuzhu did not have an immediate effect, but instead was counterattacked by Xiangbei once again. At this point, Lingnan has been completely pushed to the edge of the cliff. All those who support Lingnan on the field realize that Lingnan has truly reached a moment of life and death. Led by Yenny, Lingnan's substitute started cheering his team even louder. Lingnan had no way out. The next goal, as soon as it came up, Fish Pillar showed his determination and fiercely fought Akaji on the inside. The gorilla is not an easy match either, giving a very strong counterattack, and the fish post's strong attack on the inner line did not work. Protected. Not right. Sakuragi reacted and realized that although Fish Post was aggressive in his position just now, he did not make a complete attack. This guy was just testing the referee's scale. I didn't expect you, as a cook, to not study recipes but also study military tactics. Sure enough, this time Fish Pillar didn't make a strong attack, but instead passed the ball out. Sakuragi glanced at the time. There were still 8 seconds left. Even if he passed it to Monkey Boss, his poor single skills may not be enough to complete the attack. The next attack would either be completed by Sendo or Fukuda in front of him. Since Fish Pillar has already tested the referee's judgment criteria, such physical contact should not be considered a foul. Sakuragi immediately began to strengthen his physical confrontation and began to consume Fukuda from the no-ball stage. You should know that the one who stood in front of Fukuda before was the former junior high school MVP. Despite Mitsui's hard defense, Fukuda, as the attacking side, may not be able to go anywhere easily. Mitsui has a 3-year gap, but Fukuda has not received systematic training in the past 2 years, and Fukuda's physical reserves are much stronger than Mitsui's. As soon as the intensity increased, Fukuda's running became difficult, and Sendo saw the opportunity and decisively gave up cooperation with Fukuda. Xiandao pretended several times in a row and never deceived Luchuan Feng. Just as the substitute in Xiangbei breathed a sigh of relief, he suddenly hit the ground from the crotch and passed the ball to the inside line Fish Pillar. He quickly shook off Luchuan Feng and cut into the inside line. Luchuan Feng was taken aback for a moment, and after realizing it, he immediately chased towards the Immortal path. Fish Pillar turned his head to the left, then handed the ball to Sendo. Sendo used Fish Pillar's cover to accelerate into the inside line. Akaji, who was on the inside, was confused by the turn of Fish Pillar. After realizing it, he couldn't think much and let out a loud roar before rushing towards the Immortal path. Xiandao remained calm and composed, darting and bouncing in the air, evading Akaji's defense and making a layup. The goal is valid, red number 4, the hitter fouled. 2+1. Akaji has also committed 3 fouls. What a fairy, with a dirty heart. This attack was clearly aimed at Akaji, using Akaji's sense of responsibility and defensive desire to successfully earn a foul. And Monkey Boss, this guy can also play fake moves now. If it weren't for his turn, this ball could have really caught Akaji's defense. At 55.45, the score difference has reached 10 points again. Akaji, who was hit by Sendo with 3 runs, was naturally unwilling to sit idly by. Despite the defensive player behind him being replaced by Fishbone, Akaji decisively chose to play singles with the ball. This is Akaji. Sakuragi sighed inwardly and remembered that in the big movie, Akaji was taught to be a good person by Hiroshi Yamada. It was at that time that Akaji realized his position. Now, Akaji is gaining momentum. A hand-to-hand battle on the inside, considered as the first center of Kanagawa, began. It has to be said that the collision between Akaji and Fishpost on the inner line was truly powerful, with a constant banging sound that made Sakuragi, who was ready to grab rebounds at any time, feel nervous. It's been a while since I've seen such a retro interior attack and defense, it's really nostalgic. In his past life, the range of a center was getting farther and farther, and his position was also getting closer to the outside. NBA centers either relied on the outside to feed the pie, or were on the outside waves. Some even evolved into movie stars, but no one learned the technique of attacking the inside. Akagi exerted a force and hit the fish pole, then stood up and shot. Pop. The fish pillar was not completely knocked open by Akagi, quickly stabilizing his body and taking a side shot to block Akagi's shot. Good ball. Well done. The substitute bench in Lingnan cheered. It's obvious that Lingnan was a bit too happy too early. Sakuragi, who had been paying attention to the movement on this side, took the first step to grab the basketball, took a step under the basket, shouted loudly, swung it with one arm, and threw it fiercely towards the basket. Fish pillar, stop him. Off the field came the anxious shouts of Coach Tanioka. Just as everyone thought it would be another confrontation between Mars and Earth, to their surprise, Fish Pillar managed to dodge. That arrogant fish pole actually dodged. This undoubtedly surprised the entire audience, and soon, boos came from the stands. Cowards. Cowards. Fish Pillar ignored these and silently released the ball from the baseline, then ran towards the front court. At 57.45, the score was widened again. Fish Pillar, cannot be sent off at this time. Even if I endure humiliation, I will stay on the field. Only by staying on the field can we have a glimmer of vitality in Lingnan. Yuju, I'm starting to admire you a bit now. The shepherd in the stands murmured to himself. Akagi, do you know why Monkey Boss was hiding just now? On the way back to defense, Sakuragi suddenly spoke up to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, otherwise he would have to compete with a real person again. Akagi was puzzled for a moment, and also, the words you didn't finish just now were chimpanzees, right? I feel a bit itchy in my fist now. For the sake of victory, for the national competition, don't forget, you also fouled 3 times. For victory. For the national competition. At this moment, Akagi suddenly realized that it was like this. The ball just now, with Yuzuru's position at the time and Sakuragi's timing of shooting, there is a high probability that he will pay for a foul when blocking. Once this happens, Yuzuru will make 5 full fouls and be sent off. At that time, Lingnan will return to a state without Yuzuru, and this game will be explained. Are you willing to bear the name of a coward for the sake of victory? Lingnan attacked, but Fish Pillar stepped forward to cover up. Akagi, who was about to stop the immortal path, remembered Sakuragi's words. You have also fouled 3 times. Akagi couldn't help but stop and let Sendo shoot in front of him. Oh, Akagi's defense is not right. Off the field, Mitsui discovered a clue. According to Akagi's previous style, this ball must be stepped forward to defend. This is a guy who sees the basket as a battlefield, but this time he allowed Sendo to score in front of him. Not only Mitsui, but also everyone who is very familiar with Akagi, whether it's Tian Gang off the field or Amu on the stands, all have a ghostly expression. Tian Gang's reaction is still faster. Since Akagi's defense is not willing to do his best, it's not polite. Xiandao, just fight like this. Keep fighting hard. Upon hearing Tian Gang's roar, Sakuragi glanced at Akagi and Ryukawa Maple. Xiandao and Yuju had already shown them earlier, have you both learned? Chapter 8. Defensive Ferry Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, returning to his own half, Ryukawa Maple made defensive shots against Sendo and Yuzuru. Before taking action, Ryukawa Maple paused for a moment, seemingly intentionally waiting for the Fish Pillar to defend before taking action. However, just thinking about making a fish column foul like this, Maple Ryukawa couldn't help but imagine Kanagawa's 3 center forwards too simply. The current fish pillar cannot be easily lured into committing a foul, and besides, the scoring method just now had a too low shooting percentage. You don't even need to jump at the fish pole, just slightly interfere with the shooting and wait for the Sendo defense to follow. Even if you are the best newcomer, how high can your shooting percentage be when facing the defense of fish pillar and Sendo? This guy's ability to read competitions is really poor. The cherry tree murmured in secret. In Sakuragi's view, Ryukawa Maple is a model of not colliding with the south wall and not turning back. He must be beaten by reality to realize his shortcomings, that is, the Mountain King was killed by the plot, otherwise if he lost that game, Ryukawa Maple would be a cancer. As far as the reading competition is concerned, there is a gap of ZBI between Ryukawa Maple and Sendo. Lingnan attacked, and this time Xiandao took the initiative to block Miyagi Castle. Off-road, he used Xiandao's cover to break free from Miyagi Castle's defense, and on the occasion of the exchange of defense between Luchuan Maple and Miyagi Castle, off-road passed back to Xiandao. Mispositioned attack. Not entirely like this, I'm afraid the Immortal wants to make a foul in Miyagi City. With a moment of thought, Sakuragi immediately let go of Fukuda and rushed to the inner side of Miyagi, holding onto the Immortal path with Miyagi to the left and right, while constantly squeezing the space of the Immortal path with his body. After receiving the ball, Sendo didn't stop much, raised his hand and swung it, like eyes growing behind his head, accurately delivering the ball to Fukuda's hand. No look pass. It truly deserves to be an Immortal path. At this moment, Fukuda was defenseless and could shoot with the ball raised. Gorilla. Damn it. Shut up. As soon as the words fell, a dark shadow enveloped Fukuda. It's Akaji. The captain of Xiangbei gave up his original defensive target, Yuju, and rushed towards Futian with all his might. At this point, Fukuda's shooting action had already been made, and he gritted his teeth, accelerating the speed of his shot. Backboard. As soon as he made a move, Fukuda felt something was wrong and quickly shouted to his teammates to grab rebounds. Under the basket competition, Sakuragi relied on his speed advantage to jump the basketball first, then took a second jump and grabbed the rebound. Coach Tian Gang from Lingnan stood up with a ho sound, his face full of disbelief. The cherry blossom path, which was considered an unstable factor by oneself as an outsider, actually stifled Lingnan's determined attack this time. The entire audience was also stunned by the dazzling attack and defense of both sides. When they reacted, thunderous cheers and applause came immediately. Of course, more was given to Xiangbei, because Xiangbei was the winner of this round. Is it cherry wood? Sakuragi actually gave the correct instructions. The Sakuragi Legion looked at each other in the stands, as if they had seen something remarkable. Is that red-haired monkey a coincidence? No need to ask, it must be Qing Tian from Hainan. If Sakuragi didn't happen this time, this guy's defensive sense is really top-notch in the country. On one side, AMU firmly believed that even if he was away from Sakuragi, he wouldn't do better. At the very least, he didn't have the ability to take off twice. Miyagi, calm down a bit. Sendo was trying to lure you into committing a foul just now, and there's also Ryukawa Maple. If you can't defend against Sendo, I don't mind switching sides with you. Sakuragi also saw that, just like Ryukawa Maple, it's okay to defend Sendo with a ball, but without a ball. Especially for Sendo, who is good at cooperating with teammates, it's really difficult for this fox. Big idiot. Of course, what comes in exchange can only be the white eyes of Luchuan Maple. Turning his head, Ryukawa Maple's attack was also strengthened by Sendo's defense, and Fish Pillar unleashed his incredible power under the basket, overwhelming Akaji and Sakuragi to protect the rebounds. Sendo dribbled the ball forward and Sakuragi saw that Ryukawa Maple had already returned to half-court to prepare for defense. He let out a sigh, but Ryukawa Maple still thought about defense too simply. Defending a scorer, especially with an explosive scoring ability like Sendo, requires intensity from the beginning. Let me demonstrate it to you. Luchuan Maple, keep an eye on Afu. As soon as the words fell, no matter what face Lu Chuanfeng had, Sakuragi, like a fierce tiger, fiercely pressed against the immortal path. Not only does he use his strength to press Sendo, but he also occasionally tries to cut the ball with his hands. Faced with this defensive posture, even though Sendo had a strong psychological resilience, he was startled by Sakuragi and blocked completely. Xiandao. A cry of surprise came from below the court. Single-person pressure. A figure suddenly appeared in the mind of the pastoral gentry. Ichiro Shinjin. It has been 3 years, and this guy has been suppressing him for 3 consecutive years. Does he have a chance to win this year? Sendo is truly a Sendo. Faced with the imposing Sakuragi, he didn't panic. He first dribbled from behind, then turned around and widened the distance from Sakuragi. When Sakuragi came back up again, he exerted force to push Sakuragi open, and then quickly dribbled 2 steps to shake him off. The continuous high-frequency movements also temporarily weakened Sendo's ability to launch an attack. Seeing Sakuragi getting entangled again, Sendo could only temporarily pass the ball to the receiving off-road player and wipe the sweat off his forehead. Who? This savage guy is guarding against the real culprit. Sakuragi did not relax his defense against Sendo by passing the ball, but instead increased his defensive strength. Sakuragi once again stuck onto Sendo, holding onto his waist with one hand and constantly waving with the other, interfering with Sendo's catch. I almost forgot, Sakuragi remembered. This TM is from 1992, and it's not like 30 years later, when you go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and hit the referee and blow the whistle. Now you can get started. Since that's the case, Xiandao, I'm sorry. As Sakuragi increased his strength, Sendo no longer easily obtained the ball as before. Akagi also began to increase his restrictions on the fish pillar, without the cover of the fish pillar. Sendo wanted to break free from Sakuragi's entanglement on his own, but it took some effort. As for Fukuda, Ikeda, and off-road enthusiasts, even if they have the intention to cover up, the cover effect can only be said to be optional in front of Sakuragi's physical fitness and experience. Who? Finally, he received the ball, and Sendo breathed a sigh of relief. Sakuragi, like a beast, looked much cuter with a paralyzed face. Sakuragi arched back 1 meter from the immortal path, his hands spread out, defending from a distance. This distance can not only interfere with the opponent's shooting, but also keep up in time when the opponent breaks through. Undoubtedly a fairy, even when the attack time was running out, he calmly made 3 fake moves in a row, including 2 passes and 1 shot. Even the cherry blossom path was a bit unsteady due to the 3 false moves of the immortal path. How could the sharp-eyed immortal path miss such a good opportunity, suddenly accelerate, pass by cherry wood, and stride into the inner line? Sakuragi, who had lost his defensive position, immediately turned around and chased after the basket. Akagi, who was on the inside, was also eager to try and was ready to block at any time, while Ryukawa Maple, who had been stripped of his original defensive position, was also watching from the side. Pulling one hair and moving the whole body is the deterrent power of the immortal path. Emergency stop, take off, take action. Before the formation of the defensive encirclement of the 3 players in Xianbei, he narrowly threw the ball and it wandered around the basket for a few laps before finally falling into the basket unwillingly. 59.49, the difference is still 10 points. Chapter 9. Dealing with Immortals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Xiandao gasped for breath, facing the crazy defense of Sakuragi just now, his strength was gradually flowing out without reservation. The ball from earlier could have gone further, but just as I was preparing for the next move, I suddenly felt a limp under my feet. Helpless, I had to rush to stop and take the shot. Fortunately, the ball entered, but what about the next time? Will I still have such good luck? But at this point, besides putting it all together, is there any other way? Captain Fish Pillar, it is undeniable that he is a good captain and the backbone of the team's defense, but his attacking ability is just like that. It is impossible for him to break Akagi's defense on point 1 in this game. Afyu also lost his divine courage in the first half against Sakuragi. Sakuragi's level of defense, not to mention Afyu, is so difficult for him to face. Even though Ryukawa Maple and Sakuragi have switched sides now, for Afyu, they are both similar and he cannot defeat anyone. Not only in offense, but also in defense, Fukuda has no advantage at all. Being scored by Sendo, Sakuragi naturally cannot just let it go, even if Sendo is recognized as a genius. In his past life in the United States, Sakuragi learned a lesson. If you lose a ball, you must fight back. Faced with Sakuragi raising his hand to take the ball, Miyagi hesitated for a moment and chose to believe in Sakuragi. Sakuragi's performance in these few rounds is still worth looking forward to. Catching the ball with one hand, Sakuragi changes his right foot from the center axis to the left foot, and his body moves in a clockwise direction to the right side, from leaning against Afyu to facing the opponent diagonally. A very typical step back to grab the ball, although Sakuragi has already given enough surprise to people on and off the field today, this time it still amazed everyone. Even Coach Tanioka, who has always looked down on Sakuragi, almost couldn't help but say hello. And this one-handed move of holding the ball, like an arrow, hit the hearts of many girls present. Handsome. Really handsome. This is the iconic move of NBA star McGrady, which was once popular in China for a period of time. Sakuragi used to want to imitate it, but unfortunately, his hands were not as big and his grip was not as firm. Unexpectedly, today he had the opportunity to imitate it. No, Maisie is still in junior high school now, and she accidentally became a pioneer. Mage, I'm sorry. Sweat flowed down from his forehead along the corners of his eyes, and Fukuda felt that Sakuragi and the first half were completely different now. In the moment Sakuragi received the ball and faced him directly, this feeling was particularly strong. Lift the ball. This is an imperfect fake move. Although Sakuragi was already an excellent basketball trainer before his rebirth, court training and real combat are still different. Moreover, his body is also different from his original. However, it's enough to deceive Fukuda. Fake action. Fukuda's heart was at war with humans, but his body honestly responded by shifting his focus upwards. Release the ball, sideways, kick the ground, step, catch the ball, bounce, grab the ball with one hand, slide and jump and chop with one hand. A series of dazzling movements, unable to even catch the fishing post under the basket. Xiandao looked at Tian, who was still standing there and maintaining a defensive posture, and let out a sigh for no reason in his heart. Every game is a journey to hell. If you don't pass, then fall down. Tian Gang switched to grass planting, off-road driving, and added a ball holding point, at least reducing the burden of Sendo's ball control. After receiving the ball again from outside the 3-point line, Sendo still faced Sakuragi Kagami. Xiandao raised his hand and stood up. Fake action. True investment. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and unable to make a judgment, Sakuragi slowed down for a while, only leaning over and raising his hand to explore the Immortal's face. My feet were just lightly jumping up to the height of a line, but the ball in my hand had already been released. When you take off, it's the time to take action. Hurry up. How fast? Sakuragi had not fully reacted yet, and Sendo had already made a move. With such a quick move, Sakuragi was well versed and had only seen it among a few top players in the NBA. Brush. While defending Fukuda, Ryukawa Maple let out a long sigh. This guy from Sendo has obviously made his move faster than when he was defending before. Is it possible that this guy still has something to keep before? Sakuragi, who experienced this goal throughout, also had to praise Sendo. This kind of playing style is the best way to deal with his own defense. If you slow down a bit more, the Immortal will fall back into the rhythm of hand-to-hand combat with yourself. With Xiandao's stamina, he may get tired before finishing the game. Don't forget, Xiandao also needs to defend Lu Chuanfeng. Even if Lu Chuanfeng stands still on the side, he still needs to allocate his energy to guard. Qishang, you and Fukuda switch sides. When Sakuragi received the pass again, the defender in front of him had already become Lingnan's defensive expert. Qishang. Zhaozuiyuan.com coach Tian Gang still doesn't take brother glasses seriously. People who dare to underestimate brother glasses often suffer big losses. With Fukuda's defensive mindset, he can also defend against Sakuragi in the first half. Although brother glasses may not have the same physical fitness as Fukuda, scoring is not entirely based on his physical fitness. Out of the corner of his eye, I saw that Mu had already freed himself from Fukuda's defense, while Fukuda's gaze remained on Sakuragi, more precisely, on Sakuragi's basketball. With a flick of his wrist, the basketball flew accurately into Mu's hand. Mu took a deep breath, raised the ball, took off, and took a shot. The time basketball flies in the air is very short, but in Mu's view, this time almost runs through his career. Brush. A hard-working person, heaven never fails, and heaven rewards diligence. Lingnan attacked. This time, Lingnan's gameplay was clearly organized, and everyone kept providing cover for Xiandao. In the end, Xiandao found a chance and stepped on the three-point line to hit. Sakuragi shook his head. With this kind of Xiandao's gameplay, if you feel it, you really can't resist it. However, your immortal path is not Mitsui Sho, and you do not have the passive attribute of using residual health to open major moves. I'll bet on your hit rate, but you can't kill me with this move. Thinking of Mitsui, Sakuragi glanced at the score, which was 64.54, with a margin of 10 points. There were only 5 minutes left until the end of the game. Mitsui has almost rested, and there should be no problem holding on for the last 5 minutes. Since that's the case, Lingnan should seek his own blessings. Xiangbei requests a replacement. Like having a telepathic connection, Mitsui also took the initiative to apply for a replacement at the record desk. Undoubtedly, it was once a junior high school MVP, and the ability to control fighter jets is truly remarkable. With Fukuda on the field, let's see how you defend Lingnan. Chapter 10. Closing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, defense is something that can only be gradually improved over time unless it is cheating. The blank space before Fukuda is different from Mitsui's. Before becoming a delinquent teenager, Mitsui was a Kanagawa MVP, and at that time, his level was not much worse than the current level of Maple Ryukawa. According to Hainan Aishin's recollection, when Fujian was in junior high school, Kai was very picky. Even though he had been honing his skills on the field court, how high could his level on the field court be? Now the question arises, who is Fukuda guarding against? There are currently 5 people on the field in Xiangbei, but they all have the ability to take the initiative to attack. Even the male lead in future big movies can use speed to make Fukuda doubt his life. Take Fukuda. Lingnan can only attack and rely on Xiandao to swing alone. Even if Xiandao is covered in iron, he can still hit a few nails. Tiangang Maui still has a decisive decision. Since he can't defend horizontally or vertically, let's fight to attack. Coach Tanioka ultimately chose to keep Fukuda on the field and let him defend Mitsui. He didn't need to worry about anything else on the defensive end, just follow Mitsui. Mitsui is very powerful, but his stamina has also been depleted. Prevent me. This is treating me like a soft persimmon. Mitsui is angry. Just as Mitsui was preparing to personally teach Fukuda the ball, a red figure ran out from the inside and blocked Fukuda. It's Cherry Wood. Mitsui was startled and seemed to have thought of something. using Sakuragi's cover to break free from Fukuda's defense. Pass the ball. Always paying attention, Miyagi immediately passed the ball when he saw Mitsui get rid of it. Mitsui caught the ball, took off, and took a shot. The pool, which was not well defended, could only reach out in vain, praying that the ball would not go in. 3-point hit. If Mitsui still can't pitch at this level of defense, why not waste time on the field? Let's change our glasses and come up. Tian Gang sat in a chair dejected as if struck by lightning. Cover, catch and shoot. In the plot, a month later in the national competition, Mitsui almost used this trick to break through the outside group of King's Mountain, changing the time and space, and this scene was staged ahead of schedule. After scoring the goal, Mitsui clenched his fists tightly. I, Mitsui Sho, am the man who wants to dominate the country and must not fall in the district and county competitions. When retreating, Akagi was given a meaningful look. Akagi naturally understood what Mitsui meant. When he first joined the team, he and Mitsui argued endlessly about their attacking style. Mitsui believed that the inner line should be covered by the outer line, with the outer line being the main target. I believe that the outside team should be responsible for opening up space for the inside team and prioritize attacking the inside team. Now it seems that Mitsui's persistence back then is still reasonable. If Sakuragi could hear Akagi, he would definitely sneer. What kind of dishes are you in your first year of high school? I don't have a staff chart in my heart. Still focusing on attacking from the inside, do you have that ability to play for you? With Xiandao's response, the ball missed, and Xianbei once again drew a gourd-like gourd. Qi Shang, who had already suffered losses once, followed suit in time. However, this time Sakuragi did not show martial arts ethics and quickly ran back after a false shot, straight into the interior. After receiving the ball, Mitsui didn't stick to his hand and threw it directly into the inside line. Sakuragi caught the ball, slammed it hard, and flew off the floor. Yuju could no longer tolerate his own basket being ravaged by Sakuragi. He let out a loud shout and pounced fiercely at Sakuragi. I was deceived. Sakuragi's eyes flashed with a glimmer of brilliance as he lowered his raised basketball hands and bounced back to Akagi, who had no defense under the basket. Gorilla Slam Dunk Online. At 69.54, the game had passed by more than a minute, and the difference in points had widened to 15 points. Lingnan is finished. On the stands, Aamu covered the coffin and concluded. In less than 4 minutes, even chasing 15 points, including all levels of domestic competitions in Shaotian, no one has accomplished such a feat. Moreover, the current momentum of northern Hunan is like a rainbow, and it is the best time for chemical reactions. Not to mention this southern branch, it is almost impossible to complete this task with oneself on Hainan. Aamu glanced at Sakuragi. At first, he thought he wasn't a member of the pool, but he underestimated him. Outsiders watched the excitement, while insiders watched the tricks. AMU, who had been watching the entire game from the stands, knew very well who was the most crucial person in the Xianbei team in the second half. If it weren't for this person standing up, Xianbei might still be struggling. I really look forward to playing against you again. Next time, how much progress will you make? Yenny, you guys go up and replace the Immortal Dao and others. Seeing Sendo once again miss a shot under the encirclement of Sakuragi and Mitsui, Coach Tian Gang felt a pain in his heart and gritted his teeth to give instructions. Ah! Coach, we. It seemed like they were stunned, and these few people were still motionless. Didn't you hear me clearly? Should I repeat it again? Watching these immature guys frantically run towards the technical statistics station, Coach Tian Gang closed his eyes with a gloomy expression. I never expected that I, Shichi Tanioka, would surrender voluntarily. I really didn't expect it. That old enemy with a high head must be watching my joke in the stands. Senior Tian Gang, you are really amazing. I am not as good as you in this aspect. The high head on the stands looked at Tian Gang below, his eyes full of the self that was violently beaten by the Mountain King last year. Coach. Don't you understand? Compared to stubbornly resisting to the end, lowering your figure and admitting defeat is the more difficult choice. Gao Tu didn't say much, looking at Tian Gang below with a worried expression. Senior, are you ready to take on all of this? The worry of raising one's head is not unfounded. At that time, the small days were no different from now, only based on results, winning and losing, boasting and complaining. Moreover, media outlets that have been plagued by certain ideological legacy often advocate for fighting until the very last second. Tiangong's approach will undoubtedly be labeled as cowardly by some people. Don't forget, Lingnan is a private school, and the school's board of directors depends on the grades. Later, in the high school basketball industry, Coach Tian Gang's famous saying came out. This is the campus, not the playground of capitalists. Seeing Lingnan being replaced as a substitute and Xiangbei being tacitly replaced, Emperor Jiaotian said that it was time for brother to win the harvest. At 72.61, a group of vegetables and chickens pecked at each other. It seems that Xiangbei is more delicious, but it's not important. What's important is that Xiangbei won. National competition, we're here.